恩雨移动，一个传达祝福的流动平台，一点鼓励，一点关怀，一点安慰，随传随到。快点来扫一扫这个 QR code， 下载最新推出的恩雨移动 Apps， 免费领取迎新礼品吧。
他们对教会有不同的感受。
I didn't find it boring, actually. I quite enjoyed the time because there would always be people to play with or hang out with.
I did not feel safe, I did not feel loved, and I definitely didn't feel welcomed.
成长过程中，面对不同的困惑。
My mental health was very bad. I experienced a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety.
I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was passionate about.
The thing that I ultimately struggled with was loneliness.
Doing the things I wasn't allowed to, going to the club, smoking, drinking.
I dropped out of fashion school 6 months into it.
他们的生命可以改变吗？
Praying, journaling, having that ongoing conversation with God is so important when you feel like you have no direction.
Being in Bible college was when I fully understood where I really feel like I found my purpose. 温哥华风景优美，气候温和，满地可充满法国风情，历史悠久。一个是加拿大西岸的繁忙港口，一个是东部海陆运输的重要枢纽。两个城市在地理位置和经济发展上有相似之处，但是在气候、文化和语言上又截然不同。黄德雅戴安在温哥华长大，而 Adrian 齐晟恩一直生活在满地可，同样出生于华人家庭，同样从小跟随父母去教会，但他们两个的经历与体验就截然不同。
As I grew up in church, I attended all fellowships, Sunday schools, and really it was a rhythm. But I didn't find it boring, actually. I quite enjoyed the time because there would always be, I guess, something to do, and then there would always be people to play with or hang out with. We'd have this basketball net at church in our basement. We'd have a great time. We played on that for 10, 15 years, and seeing my parents take fellowship church very seriously at a young age and consistently made me not only question why they did these things, but they gave me an example of how and why church was so important.
At a young age, I really did enjoy going to church. You know, you have summer camps and VBS and all of that's really fun. But I was also enrolled in certain programs that I wasn't so fond of, and memorizing scripture and kind of being forced to do that in a way, it wasn't fun for me. And it kind of gave me a bitter taste in my mouth towards church. And then I had this best friend that I would say kind of the only friend that I had at church, but she was also really involved with her parents' small groups kids, but I wasn't friends with all of her other friends, and they were actually the ones who ended up making me feel uncomfortable in the church. And so one day she just kind of decided to side with them. And that was really, really hurtful for me. The church is supposed to be a place where you feel loved and welcomed and safe to be who you are, be the person that God created you to be. Meanwhile, I was feeling the complete opposite. I did not feel safe, I did not feel loved, and I definitely didn't feel welcomed. 青少年时期，戴安的心思变得更加敏感，去教会不开心，去学校也不开心。他甚至曾经想过结束自己的生命。My mental health was very bad. I experienced a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. I remember one time I wanted to suicide. I was writing a letter to my dad in my room, just sobbing, and then he actually walked into my room while I was writing that and interrupted it. It doesn't almost even feel like my life because it's so different than who I am now, but yeah, there was a time in my life where I just didn't want to live because I had no reason to.
他有一本小册子，将很多要写给别人或是给将来的自己的一些信呢，就放在或者是贴在这个小册子里面。那我刚刚好呢，就看到有封信讲到这件事情，不知道原来他的这个内心啊，经过这样的挣扎。
与戴安不同 ，Adrian 的生活一直都很平顺，直至高中毕业进入大学预科，他才遇到学业上的挫折。
Here in Quebec, we have Cégep, so it's kind of like college. So we only have grade 11, and then we go to Cégep, which is U0. It's weird. People here will always tell you that transition between high school and Cégep is the most difficult. It's the biggest change because you're discovering what you would want to do in the future, what you want to study, and those are huge questions, right? And my parents didn't really force me, but the pressure would always be just do sciences and just do the STEM fields, because with that you have so many more doors and options available. So I tried that in high school, so I took the science route, and it didn't work out for me. I didn't like it, and I wasn't doing well. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was passionate about. All I was concerned about at that time was pretty much having fun and doing the things I wasn't allowed to. So it'd be going out with your friends, drinking, staying late out at night, things related to that.
曾經幻想可以奔走遠方，離開讓我每天到處闖蕩，明知我一出走便跟你永遠別離，但我決意任性離開你護庇。
自由但缺乏自律，令 Adrian 变得更加迷失，而戴安反而在高中时期发展出新的爱好。
When I was in high school, I started watching YouTube videos, and that was when the YouTube lifestyle vloggers were starting to gain more followers. One day I was inspired, and I just decided to make my own, and ended up in high school I would push out, I think, 3 videos a week. So it took up a lot of my time. I would film, edit all of my videos, and that gave me some sort of purpose. That gave me something to hold on to.
新的爱好不单占据了戴安的时间，甚至影响他对大学以及专业的选择。
So originally I applied to UBC for their psychology program, and I actually got in, and I had already paid the tuition, paid the dorm fees, and I was actually, I think, maybe a week or 2 before I was supposed to start at UBC, I just felt like it was the wrong thing for me. And so I went to UBC, I dropped out, got my money back, and within that 1-week period, I applied to FITM, the school in LA, for their social media program. I wanted to pursue my YouTube career, and I flew out to LA for an interview, and they accepted me, and then a month later, I moved to LA.
坦白说呢，父母都是有虚荣心的。女儿入读 UBC， 而且已经交了学费。那 UBC 的学费呢不便宜啊，那再加上住宿费啊，真的要花很多钱。但是我觉得要尊重他啊，他想去美国读书没有问题。但是其实学费是没有的，但是我们家呢有一个信贷额度，那我们就用这个信贷额度呢去都应该可以供到他读完4年大学。那所以就没有跟他说任何事情，也没有跟他讲到这个财务的问题。
因为父母的支持，戴安可以去追求他的梦想，而 Adrian 也都因为看到朋友生命的改变而开始反思自己。
This friend who actually left a really significant impact on me. Back then he wasn't doing very well at school. He used to deal drugs, he used to go to clubs, and he used to just all the, I guess, quote unquote, bad things that you wouldn't expect from, like, why is this guy at church? And I got really close with him because I was interested in the things, I guess you could call the dark side of things that he was doing back in the day. I thought those things were so cool, going to the club, smoking, drinking. Until I tried them all, and then it led me to nothing, right? It left me empty. And seeing him change and seeing him find something of value in the faith that I grew up in and didn't really care for at that time, it made me question mine and think about why I believe the things I believe. We would read the Bible and study it together. At that point, I was still confused with school and my identity. And we were going through the book of John, chapter 1, verse 12. I just felt God speak so significantly to me in that passage. And I talked about, yet to all who received him, he gave them the right to become a child of God. I felt there were so many things that I needed to do to prove myself, or there's so many things to do to become the person I wanted to be. But just right then and there, when I read that verse, it was like, you already have an identity. God has already given you an identity. You don't need to try so hard or put up a front or pretend. Right? You are a child of God, so live likewise. That was what led me to getting baptized. And I got baptized when I was 18.
回到神的面前 ，Adrian 找到自己的身份和价值。同时，戴安也在困境中重新踏入教会，去寻找主耶稣。
When I moved to LA, I thought that it would be a great fresh start. I thought that all of a sudden I would be this new person, but I ended up isolating myself even more than I was isolated when I lived here. And, you know, when I lived here, at least I had my family, but when I went to LA, I was completely alone. I didn't know a single person. So my mental health actually took a huge decline the first week that I moved to LA, and I was so depressed. I called my parents. I said I wanted to move home the very first week. And I'm really glad that they did this. They encouraged me to just stay through it, just push through, I guess, the storm in front of me. And they encouraged me to go back to the church, and I was open to it because I was desperate at that point. I lived in downtown LA at the time, so Hillsong was only about a 5-minute walk from me. So on a Sunday, I decided to go and check out the service, and when I walked into the room, it just physically felt different. Now I can, you know, have the language around it to say it was the presence of God, but I walked in and I knew tangibly there was something different about the atmosphere, and that made me curious. That was the only reason why I kept going back. I was like, something's different here, and I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what it is, but it drew me back time after time, and now I know it was the presence of God. The church that I went to, Hillsong, they would do altar calls every single week, and I wanted to respond to it many times before I actually did. I had that gut feeling. I'm like, I feel like I'm supposed to respond to this. And one day I finally did. I was like, this is God speaking to me. He's pursuing me. And I was all in with that decision. It wasn't one that I made lightly. And I knew by raising my hand, that would change a lot of things for me.
打开心怀去接受主耶稣，戴安期待自己的生命发生变化。另一边 ，Adrian 虽然在教会服侍好有成就感，但是在学业上，他的困境并没有改变。
I remember in university, I had a 2-point-something GPA, really, really bad GPA. And I wanted to drop out. I told my parents that I can't do this anymore. I go to class and I don't understand what they're teaching me. And I take the exam, I barely can fill up the exam sheet. And I just thought that there was no point. I'm just wasting money. I'm wasting my time. As a Christian at those times, the only thing you could really do is get on your knees and pray. And I'd pray to God, asking, God, what do you want me to do? You've blessed me with some talents and abilities, obviously not with school, but you've given me stuff to work with. And I'm at this point where I just reached the bottom. I reached the end.
在学业上受挫折，但是和牧者一起在教会工作，又带给 Adrian 很多喜乐，所以他打算放弃大学课程。
What's the point of me finishing this degree when I already felt called to vocational ministry? Let's not waste time. Let's just drop out here and do what I can or start somewhere in the Bible college.
Yeah, there was a sense where I don't want to have to work this hard for something that I really don't care about. And that caring about it, I think, was also part of that lack of success, right? It's just like, it doesn't bother me if I know these things about this stuff, because I think for Adrian, he really does care about people, right? And so it's the people involved that were more his concern. So there is that sense, okay, I don't want to deal with this difficulty, but moving into ministry, this is not the easy way out, right? This is actually going to be more difficult. And so part of that was just even being able to express from him some of the challenges and struggles that I face as a pastor.
Yeah, of course I was looking for the easy way out. But still, I look back at that point and God was there, using other people, and obviously through my own prayer time with him, told me there's a lesson here that you need to learn, whether it be self-discipline or determination or reliance on his strength, that pushed me to obtain my degree. There are things I needed to finish there before I needed to do something else. So every time I prayed, I received the answer that you need to finish this. You need to complete this, no matter how. And I just remember vividly where God saying, like, I will see this through with you, right? I guess that gave me peace, or that gave me some resolution. And I didn't magically become a better student, but he carried me through.
靠着神的恩典 ，Adrian 完成学业，顺利毕业。而远赴洛杉矶的戴安反而不想继续学习媒体专业。
While I was in fashion school, my personal life was radically changing. I suddenly became a church girl. I was volunteering at church, and I just wasn't really sure what was going on with my life. But I did know that I wasn't enjoying fashion school. I knew that the tuition was too much for me. I knew that I wasn't learning everything that I hoped to learn. And so I dropped out of fashion school 6 months into it.
Dan 自己做了很多的功课，就是和美国的朋友商量啊，哪一间大学会接受他呢？学费应该会便宜很多的。
For me, the safest option at the time was to just go to a cheaper school, kind of fill in some time, get some credits, try to just buy myself some time to see where I wanted to go with my life. And so I went to a small community college hoping that they would accept me. And I had my hopes pretty high because it was the type of college where you go, you apply, and you get in right away.
我们到了那间学校，真的一切都很顺利哦，所有事情都很顺利哦。到了临门一脚，他们说：“哎，是你自己不读那间大学的？那这是问题了。原来在美国啊，如果是你自己选择不在这间学校读书，转到另一间学校，那你必须要离开美国重新申请。”
And now looking back, God was also just so involved in the process, because now I know that as a Canadian, you don't even need a visa to go to school. You just need a piece of document that tells the government that you're actually going to school. But the school didn't know that. So they told me they couldn't accept me because I terminated my visa, and they didn't have the personnel to fix that because it was a community college. So I left the building, and I remember so clearly I was in the courtyard, and I kind of left my parents because I was really emotional, and you don't like being emotional in front of your parents, right? So I kind of left and found a place to sit down, and that was the first time I truly prayed, I think. I was just so lost. I was like, God, like, I will do whatever you want me to do. Just make it so clear to me, and I'll just do it.
做父母呢，最难过的事情呢，就是见到子女很彷徨的时候呢，觉得很心痛。他可能呢以为说我们看不到，其实我们都看到了。
My mom walked up to me and she was like, "Weren't you like going to look into some Bible colleges? Like, why don't you give them a call?" So then I picked up my phone and I called them right away at that same courtyard. And they were like, "Diane, your file was right in front of us. We were just about to call you." I didn't apply. I had toured the school once, and I was set on not going there because the campus was really small. It was really dainty. which now I feel like was definitely what I needed. But when I was touring schools, I thought there's no way I'm going to the school. It's so small. I don't even want to go to Bible college. So it was off the table for me. And so in that moment, it was too much of a coincidence for me to count it as a coincidence where this school that I had such high hopes in, the door shut really quickly, and then I pick up my phone and this door is like wide open and my file was right in front of them. So I took that as a sign from God, a call from God to just go through with Bible college.
3年在神学院的学习，不仅加深了知识上对神的认识，也兼顾了戴安对神的信心。而 Adrian 在大学时期已经开始修读部分神学课程，现在他继续修读神学，因为他想预备自己有更扎实的知识去带领年轻人。
God opened doors for me through this Bible college. It allowed me to remain here and study. It's still a journey, but I know again that trusting in God's direction, praying, journaling, having that ongoing conversation with God is so important when you're just feel like you have no direction. You just step out in faith and you keep trying. And you'll have this sense of peace to know that, like, yeah, this is the right direction.
While he was a young adult, I was dealing with as a youth, and then to see that kind of transfer, it's an exciting thing. And to me, really, a great example of what we've been given in Scripture for what it means to build the kingdom and make disciples of all nations and tongues. And so, yeah, I definitely have seen young people looking up to him and following his example. Maybe not just into ministry, but into intentionally following the leading and calling of God on their lives.
因为疫情的关系，戴安从美国返回温哥华，他希望用自己的经历去帮助年轻人。而戴安的改变也影响了他的家庭。
When I was personally really depressed myself, I was going through a lot in middle school and high school. So to now be in a position on the other side where I'm able to, take what I had gone through and allow God to use that to now pour into the next generation who is going through what I went through, but, even more with COVID and, all of the stuff happening in the world. I think it's a really special thing.
他去美国读书，尤其是读神学，一路以来呢，其实他的生命啊，也对我的生命产生了挑战。有时候呢，我就会想啊，女儿很有这个心智去侍奉神，那么我呢，他会刺激我都有这个心智去侍奉神了。
我只想說我不配得這份愛，求原諒我，讓我重新不計較當初，沒意料是你的雙手已抱緊我，只想我歸家，每天都愛我。
Adrian 和戴安2位年轻人生活在不同的城市，经历了不同的困难，但是他们的生命同样被神改变。他们也愿意跟随神走未来的人生道路。
從此在漆黑裏獨自流浪，回想在你愛中心得安躺。
多谢大家收看《恩雨之声》。如果想更多了解这个节目，欢迎打来我们的热线电话31064444，或浏览我们的节目网页。